My name is Grodi, and my persuasive speech topic is increasing the number of baseball scholarships at the college level. To start off, I have a personal story to tell you. I experienced it firsthand. One of my high school teammates, his name was Andrew Eister, didn't receive a lot of attention coming out of high school from college coaches. He ended up going to Santa Fe Community College in Gainesville, and he ended up playing there for 1 year. He had impressive statistics, which caught a lot of eyes from college coaches. He ended up getting an offer from the University of Florida, but was later taken away by internal reasons. And they had to pull it because not enough scholarship money was available to give him. He ended up at the University of South Carolina and is still there and is performing well. Just to give you guys an idea of how limited the number of scholarships are, there's only 11.7 scholarships split up between 27 players on a college D1 baseball roster. There's 35 total players on a roster, which leaves about 8 of them with no baseball money at all. On top of that, coaches are handcuffed in the recruiting process, limiting them to who they actually want at their school. Significance of this topic: as school enrollment grows, so does tuition. So schools are bringing in more money for each individual. Kids are more prone to debt. Student athletes and normal students, this affects them both, and it creates an imbalance of athletic and academic scholarships. Academic scholarships are earned competitively, much more competitively than athletic scholarships, and this relates to both student athletes and everyday college students because no one wants to experience debt after college. Just to compare it to other sports, D1's football teams receive 85 full scholarships for their players. Each individual athlete gets a full scholarship, everything paid for: books, housing, food, etc., etc. When we bring up basketball, even though their scholarship numbers are low, at around 13, 14, they have significantly less players on a roster, which means they still get each a full scholarship. To compare it to baseball, baseball players get a minimum of 25% of a scholarship, which is partial and it's not fair compared to other sports. An example of the problem: a baseball player by the name of Anthony Marks. He attended Coastal Carolina University. He was given a walk-on spot, meaning he was given no baseball scholarship money. After 2 years, he ran into financial questions with his family, threatening his baseball future. He sat down with his coaches, his mom, and his dad to discuss if he could even continue to play. After this, he decided that he would prepare himself for the debt in the future, and he went on to become a huge contributor for the 2016 NCAA champions at the D1 level, which was Coastal Carolina. After all was said and done, he ended with a 6-figure amount of student debt, which he would have to pay off on his own. Just some important people to speak on this topic. There are 2 coaches well respected in the college baseball community. The first one was Rick Jones, who is the most all-time winning baseball coach at Tulane University. In his words, he said, "In our sport, a young man doesn't necessarily always go where he wants to go, he goes to where he can afford to go." And by this he means young individuals are making business decisions rather than a personal decision. Another highly respected coach at the college level is Mike Bianco, the head coach at Ole Miss. He's still there currently. In his words, he said, "I don't know if people get that concept, that there's so much funny money in different places, where that's what it all comes down to." What he means by this is it's an unfair process from school to school. Not all schools have the same amount of money to attract certain players, which means that some schools will become top-heavy compared to others, and the competition will decrease. Just to give you guys a perspective, there's about 150 student athletes that receive athletic scholarships in the U.S. Even with that amount of money spread between those athletes, it fails to cover the full college tuition. And this doesn't even factor in the walk-on players who receive 0 money. An overview of a problem for you guys: all college students, not just student athletes, are desperate for ways to decrease their debt when they reach the real world. It's all about finding a job, building a family, and maintaining a successful life in the future. And with this increasing debt throughout the years, it makes it harder and harder. And there's multiple easy solutions that can be implemented to fix this problem. A larger scale solution could be transferring football scholarship money to the baseball department. Football is almost awarded 5 times the amount of baseball scholarships. Even though there are more football players on a roster, as I mentioned earlier, they receive full scholarships compared to the minimal partial scholarships at the baseball level. And when these scholarship topics are brought up, baseball is not even discussed due to the limited amount of scholarships. When these scholarships are brought up to these prospective student athletes, there's basketball, volleyball, football, all those bigger sports because they receive full scholarships, where when it comes to baseball, it's not even discussed because the problem has not been attended to. And just to recap that for you guys, it relates, even though this is isolated to just student athletes, the whole concept of paying the money to go to school and receiving academic or athletic scholarships, it limits you to where you want to go to school. So private schools, public schools, it narrows down your actual choice. Like I said earlier, it's a business decision rather than it should be a personal decision. And there's really unfair treatment of one student athlete compared to another. A personal solution I have is could be, this is more of a short-term solution, more academic support to the baseball department. So if the NCAA is willing to submit more scholarship money for the baseball programs, then in the meantime, since this is going to be a longer process, more academic advisor and academic help for jobs and future life experiences could be used for these student athletes to ensure that they have a safe, successful life in their future. And an early exposure to this job field leads to a higher rate of success in the real world. And this, like I said, it serves as an alternative to the NCAA. And these academic advisors could help these student athletes realize that academics are the priority over athletics, and you need to focus on your grades to make sure that you know that jobs and building families and life experiences are more important than reaching pros. To sum this all up, the NCAA needs to be more worried about becoming a helpful tool towards these athletic programs compared to a monster as they are viewed right now. Balancing out athletic scholarships across all sports is something that's much needed so that all student athletes are treated fairly. And then an implementation of these short-term solutions could be a helpful tool needed to reach the long-term goal of submitting those new scholarship money details. And the threat of debt takes away from the college experience. Like I said, the overall topic of this is taking away the college experience of an individual. Don't make this a business decision. Let these kids decide where they want to go and let them have their own personal decision. Give the future of collegiate baseball hope. Give them a chance.